What's going on, guys? CTG Matt back with another video. Now, let's be real quick. Everybody's got something to prove. You do, I do, but it's just to different people. Some people have something to prove to like a family member or a friend or even a foe. I have something to prove to my old art teachers who said I was one of the worst students in their class that they'd ever seen because I was terrible at art. Since then, I've been working not at all to fix my artwork to prove to my teachers that I could be better, but what I did do is I started a YouTube channel. However, we're not here to talk about my art teachers, we're here to talk about NBA players. These are 5 NBA players with something to prove to the world going into the 24-25 NBA season. Make sure to do the 4 big things: like, comment, share, sub. You guys know what I'm saying. Alright, now let's get to the video. In my opinion, the player with the most to prove going into the 24-25 NBA season is Jalen Green of the Houston Rockets. Jalen Green's going into year 4, and the Houston Rockets picked up his team option for the 24-25 season, but beyond the season, however, an extension still isn't really clear whether he'll even get one. His future in Houston seems questionable, and Houston seems pretty comfortable letting him test his actual value on the open market and letting the market dictate his value. Green, barring an extension that I don't really see coming, will be hitting restricted free agency at the end of the 2024-25 season, which means a couple of things. On court, in my opinion, it shows that the Houston Rockets see what everybody else sees, a player whose game really hasn't evolved since he's joined the NBA. On court, he's kind of stagnated. His rookie season was really solid. He averaged 17 points with 2.6 assists and 3.5 rebounds, but his development, like I said, has seemed to stagnate. Year 2 was Jalen Green's best year in terms of statistical output with 22 points, 3.7 assists, and 3.7 rebounds. Yeah, 3.7 both. But his efficiency was the lowest of his career. He shot only 41.5% from the field, only 34% from 3 as well. The toughest part for Jalen Green, though, is that despite being a former 2nd overall pick, the Rockets actually seem to show favor to the 16th overall pick from the exact same draft class in Alperen Sengun. Now, due to both Green and Sengun being drafted in the same draft class, they both need a new contract, and it seems as though Houston is way more willing to give Sengun the, what I project, $160 to $200 million payroll extension he wants. Hell, Sengun might even get closer to $225 million. The guy's going to ask for a lot of money, and he deserves it. He's one of the most talented bigs in the NBA. So, of course, with them giving Fred VanVleet a bag, Dillon Brooks a bag, Alperen Sengun a bag coming up, there's a lot of decisions coming up in Houston. I will say, though, Jalen Green did show flashes of brilliant play down the stretch of last season. I mean, he averaged 24 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists from March 1st until the end of the regular season on April 14th. Green even seemed to shed his efficiency struggles by shooting 41% from the 3 and 49% from the field in March. The caveat with those stats, though, is they came after an injury to Alperen Sengun. Sengun missed most of that time frame where Jalen Green seemed to dominate. If Green can somehow manage to put it all together, become an efficient scorer at this level, he would for sure be one of the most dangerous players in the NBA with his combination of speed and otherworldly athletic ability. But like I said, he has to be able to make it work with other players on the court. Guys like Alperen Sengun who get the ball and need touches, just as he does. He struggles with guys like Alp on the court, but when Alp was off, like I said, 24 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists for a calendar month is really good. Like I said, though, Jalen Green is very talented, and with all that being said, time is kind of running out for Jalen Green to figure it out in Houston. Number 2, in my opinion, for NBA players that have the most to prove going into this next season is a guy who already seems to be coming into the season with a chip on his shoulder. It's Julius Randle. Your first instinct might be to ask me, how the heck does Julius Randle have anything to prove? The guy's a 2-time All-NBA guy and a 3-time All-Star. What is left for him to prove? Well, individually as a player, I don't think Julius Randle has anything to prove unless there's an MVP step up, which I don't really see. Randle has the accolades to his name. He's one of the best at his position in the NBA, 100%, but this choice has nothing to do with his individual talents. This choice is more about how he can prove he can fit alongside the stacked cast of players around him when he really does not fit in. This new era of Knicks is literally called the Villanova Knicks or the Nova Knicks. Why? Because just about every player on the roster went to Villanova. Already starting off crazy because Randle was a Kentucky guy. What also doesn't help Julius Randle is just how good this team was without him in the playoffs and down the stretch of last season. The Knicks did not miss a stride without Julius Randle when he left. They made the second round, and they had a chance to go up, 3-1, and could have potentially even made the conference finals without Julius Randle. When Jalen Brunson first signed to the Knicks, the first thought was, how does he complement Julius Randle, and how can he be the secondary star that Julius Randle needs in New York? And now it's kind of the opposite. Brunson showcased that he is a legit all-NBA talent and maybe even an MVP candidate. Brunson has become the leader of this team while Randle's kind of fallen back a little bit. He's fallen out of favor almost. And I'm not saying Julius Randle's going to be kicked out of New York or anything. They're still giving him a fair chance. They need shot creators and they need scorers on this team. But it does seem as though the Knicks have kind of started building around Jalen Brunson. I mean, they brought in a guy who we went to school with Mikal Bridges. They brought in Josh Hart. They brought in a bunch of guys to make him more comfortable and happier and build this cast around him. I kind of wonder if that will have an effect on Julius Randle going into this next season. We're kind of seeing it now before the season even starts that Julius Randle may have a problem with being the secondary star. I mean, the Knicks team store wasn't selling his jerseys and he seemed to have a really big problem with it. And if I'm being honest, if I was Julius Randle, I would have a problem with it too. But like I said, with this team catering to Jalen Brunson more and more and the team getting more stacked with talent, this roster's loaded now. Randle himself missing time last season, he kind of needs to be reacclimated as well. Randle's shot diet, especially with the mid-ranges, kind of clashes with what the guys on their roster do. Jalen Brunson works a lot of the mid-range. Mikal Bridges, I don't know what his role is going to be, but if he's still getting shots off the dribble like he was in Brooklyn, he takes a lot of mid-range shots. Now let's add on the fact that Julius Randle does kind of have a known temper. I mean, we can't beat around the bush. We can't ignore the elephant in the room. Julius Randle has a temper. He has for a while now. From the thumbs down thing, arguing with refs, I mean, he's had his fair share of, getting kicked out of games. So again, he's already coming into the season with kind of a bad attitude with that whole thought process of, well, the Knicks are forgetting about me. And it's kind of true. Like I said, I probably would feel the same way if I was him. But with how this team is built, with this good vibes cast of Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, and all those Villanova guys that they just love, DiVincenzo, I really don't see a place on this team for Julius Randle, and especially if he can't somehow keep his attitude in check and make sure that he's doing everything he can to be a great player and not worrying about how other people feel about the team. The final note I'm going to add about Julius Randle is he does have a player option for the 25-26 season. Although it's for $30 million, if he doesn't feel wanted or valued, I still wonder if he'll even think of picking it up. $30 million is a lot of money, but if you don't feel wanted in that place, I don't know how worth the $30 million is. On to the next player. This is number 3, the third player with something to prove going into this next season. It's Josh Giddey, another member of the 2021 draft class whose future is very uncertain. I would really kind of like to stick to basketball when talking about Josh Giddey. I don't want to talk about the minor off the court issues. If you get it, you get it. Giddey does have some holes in his game as a player. His shooting is pretty bad, and to the point where teams were kind of just leaving him open and being content with him teeing up wide open threes in the playoffs last season. His lack of explosiveness definitely hurts his ability to get to the basket and consistently finish at the basket enough for defenses to really fear him, and his percentages at the basket are sub-league average. Now, with all that being said, there are some positives in Josh Giddey's game that I kind of like to see. In Giddey's last 10 games without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the court with him, he's shined, posting 19.7 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists to go along with it. That's about 28 and 7. That's a really good stat line. I wouldn't say Giddey's proven that he can run an offense on his own, but I don't think he's ever really gotten the chance to, but I really do think he can. While his shooting percentages above the break are horrible, just god awful, he has become a moderately respectable corner three-point shooter, and he still has great court vision, and he makes the right pass pretty often. But like I said, in Oklahoma City, he had kind of a weird role last season. He was playing the 4 most of last season in most Thunder lineups. Now he's not in Oklahoma City. He's in Chicago with the Bulls. He'll be moved back to his natural point guard spot, I believe, probably, and they'll put Kobe at the 2 and Levine at the 3. That gives him pretty good spacing to operate. I don't have super high hopes for Giddey. I really don't think 28 and 7 is realistic for a full season stat line from Josh Giddey. I just don't, and I feel like that'd be putting a lot of pressure on him if I was to say that I expect that from him. However, this Bulls team is very young, very, very fun looking with good energy. Io off the bench. They brought in Jalen Smith. They still have Modest Buzelis they brought in the draft. This is a really young Bulls team that I think can run and just be a young, fun team. Levine, Kobe White, Pat Williams, Jalen Smith, Io Dosunmu, Modest Buzelis. I mean, this really does kind of feel like the perfect flat ground for Giddey to start on. There's nobody that's really going to compete for him in terms of like assists and stuff. There's no high assist guys other than him on this team. And I really feel like he can make a really positive impact on this young Bulls team. But like I said with Jalen Green, similarly to Jalen Green, time is running out for Josh Giddey to figure it out. And if he can't figure out how to finish at the rim efficiently, become at least a respectable above the break 3-point shooter, I don't know. He feels like Nope. Can't even say Australian Ben Simmons. They're both just Ben Simmons. Can't believe I was about to call Josh Giddey Australian Ben Simmons. Like, I forgot that Josh Giddey is already Australian. Number 4 on this list, it's a guy who, oh my goodness, he was horrible in the playoffs last year. It's Brandon Ingram. This one's kind of contract related as well, but also system related too. Ingram's been a talented scorer for most of his career. He won Most Improved Player in 1920 and posted multiple seasons of 20-plus points per game. The question's not his talent. The thing that needs to be proven from Brandon Ingram is how he impacts winning and how he can work with other stars. Ingram seems very unhappy in New Orleans, and that's backed up by him going AWOL from teams' mini camps that the Pelicans believed he'd be at. The Pelicans have said that they are very committed to Brandon Ingram. I think that's very good reason. He is a star to me, but also to me, he's yet to be proven if he's a $210 million star. His contract won't be $210, it'll be probably closer to $208 million, but still, $208 million is a lot of money to throw at a guy who in 4 playoff games last year as the main star with no Zion Williamson had a real chance to make an impression and make a name for himself. He averaged 14.3 points, shot sub 35% from the field, including an elimination game 4 where he shot 2 of 14. Another issue for BI is injury history. Let's be honest here, Brandon Ingram has only crossed the 65 games played mark just once in his entire career, and that was his rookie season. Last season was his closest to 65 games at 64, but unfortunately 64 games still ain't going to get you any accolades because it's a 65 game minimum. But how much can you really invest into Brandon Ingram and his injury history when you're already dealing with your extension of Zion Williamson and his injury history? The perfect guy to play next to Zion is just somebody who's durable and can be around and can get you 20 points while Zion's injured. And Brandon Ingram can do that, but the thing is that Brandon Ingram isn't very durable either. If the Pelicans were to trade Brandon Ingram, I'm curious to where the interest is coming from, because I look around the league and I don't see many teams who would really be able to complement a guy of his skill set. He's a mid-range maestro, doesn't take many threes, isn't the best passer, but can do it. I don't know, maybe a team like Utah would covet him. I don't know. I think his shot chart and his lack of durability kind of moves teams off of him. Brandon Ingram has a ton of talent, but finding an ideal team and system and an ideal fit for him just seems impossible. And with no new contract on the horizon in New Orleans, I wonder what's next for both sides. I'm sure if a good season comes from BI, he'll prove his value to the Pelicans organization, but as for now, it's about as cloudy as the water in Flint, Michigan. The last one, still in the Western Conference, it's a guy who's getting paid a ton of money. It's Bradley Beal. The Phoenix Suns' big three of Durant, Beal, and Booker really fizzled out in a bad way last season. It left a bad taste in my and many NBA fans' mouths. However, folks, whether you believe it or I believe it or anyone believes it, Matt Ishbia and probably their fan base, and me to an extent, can buy in that this team is still a contender. They added Tyus Jones, they added Monty Morris, they added Mason Plumlee. Those are 3 decent adds. The core 3, including Bradley Beal, kind of feels redundant, however, with Beal being the odd man out, mostly due to his paycheck. Bradley Beal will be getting paid $50 million coming into 24-25 with a no-trade clause, defensive, and just regular fit question marks as well. Last season, he averaged a really efficient 18 a game on 51-43 splits, but the fit is still rough, and bringing in Morris and Jones are more traditional point guards who pass the ball more, it could help. However, with bringing in the 2 point guards, now the backcourt kind of feels a little bit clogged, if I can be honest. Beal's only 6'4", so he's not quite a 3 in terms of height, especially in the modern NBA when they hunt switches and mismatches. Not to mention in last season's playoffs, in the loss to Minnesota, Beal had 1 whole game with 20 or more points, and that team had even less depth than this one did. Beal's proven to be kind of a professional scorer. He had back-to-back 30-plus point per game seasons just a few short seasons ago. The thing that does need to be proven is if he could fit on this team and be a third option. The hardest part is working around the dollar sign attached to him, though, let's be honest. And similar to Brandon Ingram, the injuries also have not helped Bradley Beal. He hasn't played more than 60 games since 2018-2019. Overall, in the Suns team, I don't think that they have any identity. They have no real skill that they can fall back on, as like defensively, I believe they'll struggle, as Coach Bud is notorious for running the drop coverage. The addition of Tyus Jones and Monty Morris seem like really good additions, but I'm not too sure if this ISO-heavy Suns team is willing to run a more set-driven offense, Or are Tyus Jones and Monty Morris going to become spot-up shooters? If this Suns offense is similar to last season, I kind of believe they'll be doomed to fail again, with or without Beal. But if they run more sets, allow Morris and Jones to be their point guards rather than running an ISO-heavy system, this team could be really good, and those ads could really help this team mightily. But to me, Bradley Beal has to prove whether he can fit and be a third star that the Suns need desperately, or is Bradley Beal just a $50 million cement block chained to the feet of the Phoenix Suns organization? We'll see going into this season. There were some other guys I definitely thought about putting on here, don't get me wrong, like Trae Young has a chance, but again, I don't know how Trae Young's supposed to really prove anything when the roster around him's not great. There's a bunch of guys that have something to prove. Some people think Jason Tatum has something to prove, which, again, that's a very fair assessment, I'd say as well. Let me know some other guys that you think have something to prove going into this next season. Like, comment, share, sub, said it at the beginning of the video. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to go catch the game. See you guys in the next one.